Well, praise God. The feasts are so rich and so powerful. You can live your whole life celebrating them every year and learn something new, a new facet. It's like his words all throughout the scriptures are like a jewel. And as that jewel is turned, the light, which is, of course, God himself, shines through it, and we're able to see something. It isn't about knowing more. It's about doing more with what you know. Because we can have a head full of knowledge and a heart filled with ugliness. And so it's about knowing his words and then doing them. Amen? So we celebrate, and of course, we noted earlier in the service that Rosh Hashanah begins tomorrow evening at sunset. It's traditionally kept for 2 days, which basically because it's somewhat judged basically upon the weather and conditions and moon in Israel. And so they established it as kind of a 2-day just in case, so to speak. So Rosh Hashanah, it literally means head of the year. And the year, according to the rabbis, begins upon Rosh Hashanah. Not so much because it's the civil year, as much as it is the end of the harvest season. And so it has from ancient times been called Yom Teruah, meaning the day of noise, the day of sound. And of course, the shofar fits that pretty well, doesn't it? Has anybody not heard on a Rosh Hashanah service, has anybody not heard the blast of the shofar before? Is this your very first year? Okay. Well, anybody who's joining us online, it's really a treat because it's a time in which everyone's involved. We're in just a few minutes, we're going to be shouting out the particular type of blast that Rabbi Dan is going to belt his way through. As somebody who has done it in years past, it leaves you breathless by the end. So it's just a really, really powerful thing, and to be able to hear the sounds and then to hear the various notes that are played. This particular feast is also called the Day of Remembrance. And why do you think God would call it a Day of Remembrance? Because you forgot, right? So that's right. And that's exactly it. Yom HaZikaron, to remember. We spend so much of our lives in this kind of hazy fog, right? Especially before coffee. We spend ourselves and we kind of go through our days sometimes in this just kind of autopilot, moving from one event to the next, driving in our cars to the next, whatever it is, or trucks. And we spend our time in this kind of autopilot. And so the feasts are really designed for us to wake up and to stop and to kind of break ourselves out of the haze. The Shabbat itself is an opportunity to stop. Break it up. Let's start anew. Each Sabbath is like a beautiful time that we can start a fresh week. And so it's, as is said, a new beginning. So in traditional Judaism, of which we don't ascribe to, this particular season is extremely important, especially for the Orthodox Jewish people. Rosh Hashanah marks the beginning of the 10 days of awe. And why are they awe-full? Or awe-filled?
Because they lead up to Judgment Day.
Okay, so Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. When we remember Yom Kippur, Tuesday the 18th at 7 p.m. right here, it's a time of being solemn. It's a very short service. It's a very powerful service because it calls us to mind the awesomeness of his presence. So this traditionally begins a 10-day period in which many Jewish people will spend a whole lot of time poring over their hearts and their lives. They'll watch even closer their words, as if that was possible, right? And so they will make amends to those. If they know that they've offended someone, they will go to that person and try to make amends in that time. These 10 days are a time in which alms can be given. In our day, whether it was money or time, maybe it's a bottle of water to somebody who's in need. It should be something that we call to mind, that we begin to notice, but there are those in need. And so it's a beautiful time in which we should be doing this, of course, all year, but in this particular time. So in traditional Jews, they very much have, it's an urgency in this time, because they believe that in this time, that by Yom Kippur, that your name will be either written in the book of life or not for the next year, written in the book of death, which is not a good thing. And so, again, most people, Jewish people, would look at this as something it's very crucial. It's literally, in their minds, life or death. We don't see this time as that particular, but the urgency, what is our urgency as Messianic believers? What's that? His returning. If he were to return today, would you be ready to stand before him? No, not yet. Well, I need to get myself ready. The reality is that you and I will probably go to meet him before he comes to meet us. Same thing holds true. Are you ready to meet him? And so this is a wake-up call for us to be able to set off the new year, so to speak. A beautiful coincidence, maybe not, is that this is literally our birthday as a congregation, when we transitioned from where we had been before to becoming something new. And so every Rosh Hashanah, it's kind of a beautiful time for us because it was something new. And so this is kind of like our birthday. So this time in which, as Rabbi Dan mentioned, the shofar will be blown in a particular cadence of notes. And each of those that we will be calling out, and we'll, in just a moment, when the slides come up, we'll practice saying the different notes, just so that we can all say them out with gusto and energy. And then hear the notes. To me, it's very piercing, the notes, and it causes us to wake up. In fact, when I leave here, sometimes I can still hear the notes because it's kind of sticking with me. The notes should inspire us, not so much of a hopeless dread, but of a what? A hope-filled, a joy. And why would they fill us with sort of an awesome joy?
Because our reward is waiting for us if we follow in the footsteps of Yeshua.
Yeah. What's that? The king is coming, yeah, for sure. So in ancient days, when a new king was to be coronated, there would be the blowing of the shofars. The beautiful thing is that this day, as we've noted throughout the years, on this day, various things have happened historically. This was the time, as we sang just a moment ago, of the binding of Isaac. And when Isaac was bound, what was the intention for him to become? He was going to be a sacrifice. And so the son of the father, Abraham, was to be sacrificed. But of course God said, no, that's not how it's going to be this time. And he provided himself a sacrifice. The scripture, as you read it, you'll see that it says God will provide himself a sacrifice. And so the binding of Isaac was foreshadowing, thousands of years later, the binding of Mashiach, who was, as Isaac was, a willing participant, willing to lay down his life at the command of the Father. And so on this day is remembered the binding of Isaac. Of course, again, a type of Messiah, willingly laying down his life. Instead of Isaac, what was provided? A ram. And so from this day, of course, the horn of the ram, we use horns of other kosher animals, but it's that tying together. On this day, the rabbis say that man was created, that this was the sixth day of creation, and that this was the beginning of, and they say that Adam's first words, which are of course not necessarily recorded in the scriptures, were that Adam said, "O Lord, you are God and King." And God replied, "And my glory shall fill the earth." And so it was this beginning, humankind began. And so on this day, in the future, something else is going to be happening. And when the great shofar is blown, tradition says, by the Archangel Gabriel, it is an awesome sound. Rabbi Dan and many other Baalim shofarot can blow it, but when the Archangel blows it, the entire world will hear it all at once. Can you imagine? Just like the angel Gabriel was sent to our mother Miriam as the announcement of, oh, by the way, the king is coming. Oh, and by the way, you're going to give birth to him. The archangel comes and says, the king is coming. But he's not coming back as a baby. He's coming back as the mighty king, the Lion of Judah. And so it's a happy, sad time because Messiah is coming. And those who know him will rejoice. And those who don't know him will be terrified. And so may you and I be found as those that are joyously waiting for the king. Amen? So this is, again, marks the end of the fall harvest, which is why it is said to begin the beginning. We see that all throughout the scriptures that he calls us to remember. He calls us to be those that are constantly doing what? What's that? To doing teshuvah, to being those that are repentant. The feast, the Sabbath between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is called Shabbat Shuvah. It's the Sabbath of return. Some would say it's the Sabbath of no return. But it should call us to be mindful of our hearts. So this beautiful feast, of which we have many traditional foods of apple and honey or bread and honey, and I'm saying honey with pretty much anything is pretty delicious. It's the sweetness. And when we wish each other, and as you wish your neighbors, Lashana Tova, many Jewish people who know that you keep the feast, they might say to you, Lashana Tova. And you can reply back to them, Lashana Tova. Or if you know a Jewish friend, or if you were to say Lashana Tova to them, they'd totally know what you meant. And you're bearing witness to the truth, that you are aware of something that will not stir them because you know something, but because maybe they know you're a Christian, a believer. And they say, how do you know this? Well, let me tell you. And you may maybe get one or two sentences in to be able to say that you attend a Messianic synagogue. Oh, well, what's that? Well, it's people that confess Yeshua as Messiah. Oh, Yeshua, who's that? Well, he's the promised anointed one of the Jewish people. Really? I never heard of him before. Who knows how God works through us and opportunities that we can bear witness to Messiah. They'll probably stumble over Jesus, but so did you and I. And here we are. So it says that Messiah is a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. And he is, because the enemy wants as much confusion as possible to be in the ears of people when they hear about this Jesus. But you and I have a beautiful opportunity as we continue to grow, not so much in the knowledge of things to do, but in the practice of the purifying of the heart. And so we see that this marks a very important time. Traditionally, around the holidays, both the spring and the feast, there's generally oftentimes great troubles in and around the land of Israel. If we're honest, there's troubles every day, but many times Satan likes to attack and cause great confusion. And so, particularly around the feasts, we can be lifting up our brothers and sisters and our Jewish people in the land, because many times there's great, even extra tumultuous things that are occurring. So when we say that God tests us, what does that mean? How does God test us?
He gives us trials and he tests our growth through them.
Okay. Tests our growth through how we respond to trials.
Yeah, along that line, it gives us the opportunities to see where we're not, even
Okay.
though we think we might be.
Yeah.
How far along we are in our growth.
Yeah. What else?
He tests us by work.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, do you think he tests us simply because he likes to see us fail? No, that's not our Father. He tests us because he's challenging us to move on and to run the race, and to, when we fall down, and we will, to rise up again, to be those that don't just stay down and say, woe is me. If we say woe is me and we stay down, what are we really saying?
I quit.
I quit? What else? It's not worth it? Mm-hmm. God is not able. We're basically saying, you know what? You're not who you say you are. And we believe the lies of Satan, who says, did God really say that? Yeah, he did. He says he will never leave us nor forsake us. But he calls you and I to action. And so when trials come, we have a prayer that we say in morning prayers that let me be able to handle the news of whatsoever may come in a calm and a calm-mannered way, that nothing phases me in the same way that it used to. Is it possible for us to be changed? To become different than we were? To be healed and whole? Yep.
We won't be whole until we're transformed, but we continue to grow.
That's right.
in that.
Yeah. If you think you're stuck the way that you are right now, you're right. If you think that you can change and become and grow, move past our failings that we all have, and to be more made in the likeness of God, then you're right, because you can. As a man or a woman thinketh, so they are. We're held hostage many times by our own minds. We think that we can't, and so therefore we cannot. But in God, all things are possible. Amen? Thank God. Because if we were left to our own devices, we'd be just as messed up as much of the world. And so in this beautiful time, and we're going to have a feast in just a second, that we are able to fellowship together, you know that the people around you, your brothers and sisters and friends and others that are joining us today, and those that are viewing us online, that we so welcome you here, that you're looking at mishpacha, family, to be able to walk out this journey together. And so as we celebrate this feast and we prepare ourselves for the upcoming Yom Kippur, may you and I be those that hear the sound, and we take it with us out of this room. And we hear the sound. Maybe you will hear it at various times. And it's a call to remembrance, a call to wake up and become that which God has called us to. Amen. Baruch Hashem. Well, we'll continue our prayers, and then in just a moment we'll have the blowing of the shofar. So the Avinu Malkeinu literally means our Father, our King. I'll say the Avinu Malkeinu, and then together we'll repeat the words that come after that. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we have sinned against you. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, have compassion on us and our children. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, may we be ascribed eternally in your book of life. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, fill our hands with blessing so that we may bless others. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, be gracious and answer us. Be our rock and our salvation. All right, now we'll have Rabbi Dan will come forward and we'll begin the calling out. So the tekiah, everybody say tekiah. Okay, so when we say that, we're going to say it loud. Say shevarim. Shevarim. Okay, and then teruah. Teruah. All right. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know. Is it on here? The tekiah gadola?
Yeah, that's in the...
Okay. All right. So then there's the fourth one is the tekiah gadola. So it's one long sound held until Rabbi Dan passes out. No, it's never actually happened. So when we say it, we're going to be saying tekiah gadola, and it's going to be, wow. You ready? Almost? Sure. All right. So this is the in just a second the different pattern, and we will literally start at the kind of the top left and move across, and then kind of across just in normal reading fashion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'Mashiach Yeshua v'tzivanu lishmoa kol hashafar. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us in Yeshua the Messiah and instructed us to sound the shofar. Amen. All right, so we're going to start over at Tekiah and move off to Shavarim, Teruah, and then back over and so on. I'm going to step out of the way. I'm going to get blown away. All right, on, ready, and Tekiah! Shavarim! Teruah! Tekiah! Teruah! Tekiah! Tekiah! Teruah! Tekiah! Tekiah! Teruah! Tekiah! Tekiah! Teruah! Tekiah Gadolah! Huzzah! Baruch Hashem. I think that was the best one yet. Wow. So, for those of you who don't know, Rabbi Dan was a professional trumpet player, right?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.